Welcome back to another episode of Expats in Ukraine with your host, me, Corey. Today, my guest, he's a Ukrainian Canadian UX writer here in Kyiv. His name is Michael Lahota, or you may know him as Mishko. What's up, Mishko?
How's it going?
Good, man. You look a little nervous.
I'm cold.
Cold, yeah. It's really cold in the studio, man. I got a sweater on today. You just got like a thin long sleeve, right?
Yeah, I don't have to lean in when I talk, right?
You can do whatever you want. You can lay
Sweet.
down. You can
There,
slouch
get a
over.
little
Yeah,
comfy.
get comfortable, man. This episode's about you.
Sweet.
Yeah, I'm gonna lean in though. I want to get a
Yes.
closer look at my guest. No, but okay. Have you watched my podcast before?
Yeah, of course.
Okay, so the intro I like to do like an icebreaker. It's like a
All
this
right.
or that kind of thing. Okay,
do a fun icebreaker.
Let's do it. Okay, the first one is unlimited poutine or no more Putin.
Unlimited poutine. Oh, clever. Okay, obviously option 2.
Option 2, so no more Putin.
Yes.
Okay. Unlimited poutine. It did sound tempting, right?
Yeah, it was
You're
tempting
wait
at
a minute.
first, but I didn't catch the last bit there. But
You're
yeah.
like, okay, Putin can live as long as I have unlimited Putin.
Please no.
Okay, so Lake Erie, Lake Ontario, or the Black Sea?
Black Sea.
Black Sea?
Yeah.
Why?
Because I haven't been able to really see it outside from Odessa, and I hear there's a lot of really beautiful beaches,
Oh yeah.
and I really want to go see it. Also, the lakes are freezing.
Oh yeah. Even in the summer. But I was there. Actually, I was in Cleveland
Yeah.
in I think 2014 or something like this.
Yeah.
And I actually went kayaking in Lake Erie, and I swam around a bit. It seemed quite nice. So
Kayaking's not bad. The scenery is really nice, but like even if it's like 30 degrees outside, the water's going to be like, I don't know, 20, 18
we're talking about 30
Freezing.
degrees in freedom units or 30 degrees in Celsius.
Celsius.
Okay, okay.
Canada, man. We don't do
Oh yeah, that's
freedom
right.
units.
We haven't, invaded you guys yet.
Oh my
We haven't
God.
made you the 51st state yet.
Oh, yeah, that's a
There's
pain
still some
point.
time to learn Fahrenheit, man.
Not happening at the point of resistance.
Yeah, Trudeau's gone though.
Yeah.
Okay, Trudeau or True don't? No, I'm joking.
I am so neutral on this. There's so many like, I don't know, people who are like diehard Trudeau fans and everything. He's done some good stuff. He's done some questionable stuff. I just like, I'm a big fan of like if we're looking at a country and we're looking at the leader, I want to see a leader.
Yeah.
Quite frankly, I think Trudeau more puts off wet noodle vibes than leader.
But he is
obvi-
good looking, man.
If that's your type, sure. Yeah, I don't know. Like, look at Zelensky. Like, that's a leader.
It's a leader, yeah. I mean, I'm sure if Canada was invaded by the U.S., Trudeau would gain like 30 years, and he would be like a strong leader as well, right? He wouldn't.
We'd have to see, wouldn't we?
Okay, coming up in the next Trump administration.
Yes.
Yeah. It's so wild. But anyways, back to this. So ketchup chips, or suhariki?
Sukhariki, because they have the taste with holodites.
Okay. Yeah, holodets, you said.
Yeah, or holodites in Korean. That's like my favorite
Fool.
flavor of Sukhariki. Come on.
Green as well, fool.
Dude, it's like
How dare
salty
you.
and spicy. It's delicious. Ketchup is...
Yeah, no, but these are it's very Ukrainian or Canadian, right? It's like ketchup chips.
Yeah,
Yeah, in the U.S. we have like a stereotype. They drink bagged milk and eat ketchup chips.
true.
Yeah.
But in Canada, we do have poutine with pierogies.
Poutine with what?
Pierogies.
Pierogies.
Vareniki.
Wow.
You like 6 on top of your poutine. It's like the most delicious thing.
Yeah, I remember. So I was in Montreal, and it was the first time I had poutine. But I noticed poutine was everywhere. I think I went to a KFC or a McDonald's. They had poutine.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's
but
not good. You got to go to Smokes.
Yeah, of course, man. But okay, last one: Brantford or Kyiv?
Kyiv.
Kyiv. Why? What's wrong with Brantford, man? For all the two Brantford people watching.
It's like, it's that place where, okay, I guess technically we had Alexander Graham Bell invent the telephone in Brantford. It's why it's known as the telephone city.
Mhm.
After that, nothing's happened there. So
Yeah,
that's
so that's
about
it.
it.
It's just
that was
and
that
then
was the
a
claim
million
to
years
fame.
later, Mishko was born.
Yep. Yeah, that's pretty much it.
Okay, so for the audience at home, Brantford is next to. It's in Ontario Oblast.
Ontario's the oblast.
Exactly.
Brantford's the Silla.
Silla. Okay, it's Silla. Okay, we'll translate it to them. But okay, awesome. It's great to know this much about you, Mishko.
Yeah.
Okay, so first we can start off before you came to Ukraine. So you're Ukrainian Canadian.
Yep.
Yeah, it's not Canadian Ukrainian. It's
Yes.
Ukrainian. Okay.
Ukrainian Canadian.
You're Ukrainian Canadian. So your parents are both Ukrainian, but born in Canada.
Yeah. So both my parents, mom's side and dad's side, they both come from Ukrainian background. On my dad's side, it's closer. It's like literally my grandparents. They left Ukraine during World War II, during basically. And then on my mom's side, they're from like Bukovina, but that comes from like 1800s, like first wave of Ukrainians that came over from Ukraine to Canada.
Okay. And I remember you did this interview with Ukrainer.
Yeah.
And you were talking about your ancestors, your relatives. Can you explain a bit about this? It was in Ukrainian, so I got the I guess like the cliff notes.
Yeah, sort of like how that all happened.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll do the long story short version, but basically what happened is like grandfather was like like our village was very much just Ukrainian. So we had like the Red Army come in, then we had the German Army come in.
Which village?
It's called Dekalivka. It's in Zinkivsky Rayon, Poltavska Oblast.
Okay.
So constantly changing sides. And when that happens, you have obviously one side being like, you're working for the enemy. No, you're working for the enemy. And it just like kept going back and forth. So my grandfather got in trouble a few times with everybody, basically. And so just like once he was put up in a very unsavory situation and he escaped. And I basically just gathered the fam, which was grandma at the time. And he was like, we're out of here. So just like packed up everything they had on a wooden carriage and like off they went west. So as sort of the German line was retreating, they were just following that line going as far west as they could. And so out through Hungary, Germany, Venezuela, and then finally to Canada.
Venezuela?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I don't know the exact details, but they essentially went from a German detainment camp into Venezuela. I've been corrected this by my dad, so he's going to kill me when he hears this, but I think they're in Venezuela for 5-6 years, and then they got to Canada.
Yeah, wow. What a story. So how do you know about this? Was it documented like in a journal from your grandpa? Your grandpa just retold these stories? Like how?
This is mostly like my dad's work, so he really went into details about like, how do we end up here? Give me as much as you can, like before they pass away. So we have them, like my dad's interviewed them on camera and everything. So they've told him as much details as they were willing to tell him. And then also my grandfather wrote basically his whole experience down before he passed away too. So we have lots of information. My dad now is like digging into like ancestry and trying to connect the dots in the family tree and figure out who in what village is related to us, how, and all this stuff. So.
Yeah. How old was your grandpa when he fled the village? Like around like
early
20s,
mid
30s?
20s.
Okay, right on.
Yeah.
Okay. Wow. And this is like in the 40s, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Wow, interesting, man. And have you taken like a DNA test?
Yep.
Yeah. And 100% Ukrainian?
Almost 100% Ukrainian. It's like 95% Eastern European based in like this area of the world, like mostly Ukraine. And then like the other, I think it's like, I don't know, it's 95%, 92%. The rest of it's like broken up between like Northern Europe and that's pretty much it.
Yeah, like my mom, my mom's side of the family, they're very interested in genealogy. She was doing like a family tree, for my mom's side. And then after my grandmother passed away, my mom's mom, my sister inherited, a few of my grandma's things. And one of them was this journal from one of our ancestors, like our great uncle or something. And in this journal, he was documenting his time in the American Civil War.
Yeah.
Yeah. So he was, for the Union, and he was stationed, I forgot, somewhere like on Union side in the East. And he was just documenting his experience. And my sister, I wanted to borrow it from my sister, but I haven't been back to the US. But I love to read it. So I'm super interested in this. And my sister, and my other sister, Mia, she did we have the same mom and dad. She did one of these DNA tests. And so my father is like more Hispanic and my mother is more just American, Anglo-Saxon, something like this. So I knew I was going to have like a mix. And so for my dad's side, he's basically, I got 25% like Andean, Chilean, Native American kind of thing.
Yep.
25% Iberian. So it's like, the like Spanish,
Spain,
Portugal kind of thing. And then on my mom's side, it was 25%. I believe it was like English channels, like something like this. Then 25%, which surprised me, like Scandinavian. Yeah, it was quite interesting to look at all of these results. And it was about like, 23, 26, but it was mostly like, above 20 and below 30 for every kind of one of these categories. And so so what I'm trying to say is I'm mixed of everything. If you see one of those dogs walking on the street,
Yeah,
that
yeah.
he kind of looks like that. He kind of looks like this. Yeah, that's basically me if I was a dog.
Yeah, it was funny because like I was expecting like something a little more diverse, but at the same time, it was just, I don't know, it was just one of those funny moments where like forever our family's like, yeah, we've never left the village. Like our whole family's from that village. And like apparently, yeah.
Yeah. No, I was so my ex-girlfriend, one of my ex-girlfriends, she took this, she was really into genealogy as well. And then I had one of my friends send a DNA test from the US, like 23andMe or something, and she took it and we, sent it back. And she was hoping to get, some insights into her background. Like she's probably a mix of that. My grandma, said that her grandparents were from this area, and she got it back to like 99% Ukrainian. And she's like that 1% was like Ashkenazi Jew or something like this.
Yeah.
And she's like, oh, I think I heard about this in my family. I'm like, it's 1%. It's like, there could be like an error.
Yeah.
Yeah, but no, it's very interesting. I'm interested in this as well. So do you feel yourself more as Ukrainian or Canadian? Then I always ask my...
This is just like a funny point because I was raised in Canada, obviously, so I have sort of all those North American tendencies and just like the way I talk and the way I look at things. But culturally, I'm probably more Ukrainian in the sense that like I went to Ukrainian school. I learned like geography, history, songs. What was it? Like we did literature, poetry, all that stuff, and like every Saturday. And then also it's in my family too. So all these things were passed down and handed down. And so that's kind of like my culture. Whereas people ask me like, oh, like what's Canadian culture? I'm just kind of like, I don't know, hockey, not much else that I can think of really.
Poutine.
Yeah, poutine.
Maple syrup.
Maple syrup's another one, but that's the other thing. I also like...
It's a part of my culture. It's a moose.
I'm not a fan of sports in general. So when people ask me about hockey, I'm like, nah, not really. And they're like, oh, you must like maple syrup then. And I'm like, I don't really like anything sweet. So that's also like not
That's
really...
why they kicked you out of Canada?
Yeah. No, but Canada's a great country. It's just, I don't like... It's hard to feel at home there, I find.
Oh yeah, I mean, to me, so I've been to Montreal and I've been to Ontario Oblast. So
Yeah.
I've been to Toronto, and Toronto, it just seemed like another, I guess metropolis, like a North American style city.
Yeah.
You
It's a
know,
lot like
like
Chicago.
skyscrapers, yeah, something similar to that, yeah. And Montreal seemed a lot different. It seemed very European.
Yeah.
Definitely French influenced.
You're allowed to drink in parks in Montreal.
Yeah, I remember I was drinking in the park, having poutine. I thought it was very unusual because, so I'm from California. We have like 21. You can't drink outside.
Yep.
Very strict with IDs. And I went to New Orleans. It was my first experience actually drinking outside on the street. I'm like, whoa, this is like so
Oh, I didn't know they could
cool.
do that there.
Yeah, they have like that strip on Bourbon Street.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so it's like a bunch of bars you can just drink on the street. They even have like these drive-through things where you can get to like a daiquiri.
Oh,
It's like a
yeah.
slushy, and you can just drive through while buy one, and you can't drink while you're driving, but
Oh, yeah, I
if you're a
hope not.
passenger, yeah, you can drink. But when I was in Montreal, I thought it was very interesting. You just drink in a park.
Yeah.
Well, why not?
There's a lot of things you can do in Montreal that you just can't do in the rest of Canada. And that's like, I find it funny, but in general, it has more of a European vibe to it, which I like. So like if I moved back to Canada, I'd probably be looking at Montreal more or less.
Yeah. But I don't know. I feel like I'm done with North America.
I know what you mean.
Yeah, it's especially like after the recent events.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. The most recent events are, yeah, you're American.
Yeah, exactly, man.
That's questionable.
Yeah, I remember I got a comment because I made a video about Ukraine, and then I got a comment: if you love Ukraine, you should leave the U.S. and go live there. I'm like, I live in Ukraine.
You're like, dude.
Yeah, I live here, man.
Catch up.
Yeah, exactly. Damn it, got him. But okay, so I know like several Canadian or Ukrainian Canadians,
Yeah.
and they tend to keep the traditions alive, like in Canada. I like the Caitlins. There's like two Caitlins, Ukrainian
No,
Patriots.
maybe.
You don't know Caitlin from Ukrainian Patriot? She's amazing.
No.
No, but I feel like you're more Ukrainian than Canadian because you actually speak the language.
Ah, that's
Yeah,
a
but
defining
she's
factor,
more like
is it?
Canadian when she understands the language a bit, but she doesn't speak it.
For all the language politics out
Yeah,
there.
exactly. Yeah, but she's very in touch. Both Caitlins are very in touch with the traditions and culture. They're
Yep.
both dancers, traditional dancers, and you are as well.
9 years, yeah.
9 years, yeah. So tell me about this. Why do Ukrainian people in Canada tend to keep their culture like alive and active?
Culture is our way of essentially keeping everything alive. More than anything, the community. So like, I'm like, I go to church in Canada because all the Ukrainians go to church in Canada. Go to dancing. I go to Ukrainian school. We have like our own clubs and everything. It's just to sort of like hang out, speak Ukrainian, talk with Ukrainians, keep up with what's going on. And yeah, it's just a way to stay together.
Yeah, no, it's really nice to hear. And I noticed there is a difference between the diaspora, especially in Canada, and the Ukrainians here in Ukraine. You feel this difference as well?
Yep. But it's like Ukrainians here are living it. So like for them, it's not as important to keep like, how do I explain it? It's not that it's not important to keep things alive. It's that they're already together. So they don't have to like find a reason to stay together. Whereas in Canada, you kind of have to find a reason to get together, talk with each other, and like keep that whole just like sense of who you are intact. Whereas here, it's like, got missiles flying. Like that brings you together more than anything. But you're here, you're with your people. There, you're with everybody. So it's kind of like, are you prepared to lose your entire ancestry for one reason or another, or are you not? And that's kind of like the deciding factor, basically.
I find it very interesting because my father's side of the family, so my dad was born in El Paso, Texas.
Yep.
So my grandparents were born also in El Paso, but then my great grandparents were born like across the border, like in Mexico, I think in Sinaloa region. Anyways,
I'm terrible with Mexican geography.
Yeah, it's like northern Mexico.
Yeah.
But across from Texas. But anyway, he didn't like speaking Spanish. Like he knew Spanish and he spoke it, but he liked to not cosplay because he looks, very Latino, but he wanted everyone to see him as like an American.
Yep.
He just wanted to speak English only unless Spanish was advantageous for him. We'd go to like maybe the mechanic and he'd want to get a good deal, so he'd start speaking to the guy in Spanish.
Yeah.
That was like the only time I really heard him speak Spanish. And I wish like he would have embraced it a bit more because I would have loved to have learned Spanish. My grandma used to try to talk to me, but by his generation, he didn't want to like pass it down. He just wanted to be American now.
I feel like, I don't know, like if you're talking about like Ukrainians in Canada, like my grandparents only talked to me in Ukrainian and their English was not great. And that was just because like when they were growing up, there was a lot of Ukrainian immigrants. So like they had their whole community and they didn't even have to like really learn English to do anything. Like you take your car to Volodya to get your car fixed, or like you go to the shop, which is like the Ukrainian shop, to go get all your groceries. So it's like you didn't like, you even had lawyers and doctors and everybody. So like you didn't really have to like go outside of your bubble.
Yeah. And is it true that Canada is like the second or the third, just like excluding like Russia, the second or third country that has the most Ukrainians?
I think it's third.
Third. Okay. Right on. Wow. No, because I've met so many Ukrainian Canadians. I don't know. A lot of them.
There's a lot.
Yeah. There's a lot. And a lot of them come back here and they want to help and they're very passionate about the country and about the situation. And they're very in touch with their culture. And I really love it. So you were dancing for 9 years, right? Ukrainian traditional?
Yeah, I started when I was 10 years old, and then I stopped when I was like, I don't know, 18, 19, somewhere around there.
Okay. So you know how to do like, was it Hopak?
Yep.
Yeah.
I went back to Canada for basically my dance partner's wedding, and we performed Hopak. And this was like the first time in like, I don't know, 12 years that we've danced. We had 1 hour of prep and like total muscle reflex, just like remembered the whole thing.
Wow.
So it was really fun, but also like really like, I don't know how you explain it. Shocking that like your body can remember that much. But I guess after you've performed it literally so many times that it's just kind of like, oh, it's Hopak time.
Yeah, no, I find it quite interesting as well. I have a friend, Elias. He used to live here. He's from Brazil. And basically both his parents are Ukrainian, but they're like Brazilian Ukrainian.
Yeah.
And his grandparents and his great grandparents came from Ukraine to Brazil. And so he lives in southern Brazil, and it's basically all Ukrainians. And he was doing traditional dance. And when he was here, he was doing like the whole Hopak as well. Like, I don't know. I just thought it was like so interesting because he spoke zero Ukrainian. He spoke, Portuguese or English. But he looked super Ukrainian.
I find that, that's like another thing that I find. Like when I was traveling into like certain parts of Canada, like central Canada, that's like when the first wave of Ukrainians came over in like the 1800s. So a lot of them don't know Ukrainian, but they hold on to the traditions and everything. And you'll be walking around. I tried to speak with people in Ukrainian, and they were just looking at me like I'm crazy. And I'm just like, but we have like varaniki and Ukrainian flags and like dancing, but no one speaks it.
Yeah. That's true. So growing up in Canada, you said you had like this circle, this bubble of like Ukrainians.
Yep.
Did you ever have any like Russians like in your bubble?
Nope.
No. Is that because there's not a lot of Russian people in Canada, or is it because you tend to stay away from them?
They have their own bubble, and Ukrainians have their own bubble. And the reason that a lot of the time, from let's say like our parents' generation, they wouldn't really cross paths is mainly because they all emigrated during World War II time period, right? So Ukrainians were, there's a situation right now. There was a situation back then. So they never really got along. So there was never really a reason for them to, communicate, link up, anything.
Yeah, because in LA, I guess it's like a bit different. I guess from my like anecdotal, evidence. So I used to date this Russian girl, and she had a lot of Russian friends, but she also had some Ukrainian friends. And they kind of, typically in West Hollywood, they had like this Russian neighborhood. It's also like Armenian. There's some Ukrainians there.
Yeah.
And they kind of live in this bubble. They lived in like this kind of Russian Ukrainian bubble. But after the war, things have changed, obviously. But before, it just seemed like they were coexisting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it's more of a thing of they probably have more in common with each other than they have with like Americans, like Americans, whatever. So it'd just be easier for them to like communicate. Also, there's like, language and all that stuff. So I could imagine how they would just be like, we have more in common. But now it's more like, nope.
So you said you went to like Ukrainian schools in Canada, right? And how does that work? So
every Saturday from 9 till 1. Could be wrong, but it was like 9 till 1 roughly.
So it's like extracurricular, like after school programs.
Yeah. Okay. So I got like an extra credit for it.
Okay. Wow.
So
and then what do they teach you there? Just like the language, or they just teach you the history in English, or
it's like a full-blown thing. So like it depends on which school you go to, of course. Ours was like in Toronto. It's called Kyiv, and it was like considered like,
wow.
I was like those are like the ones who don't just like run around and do goofy stuff all Saturday. Like we had like concrete classes. Like we'd have like 45 minutes of this, 45 minutes of that, and it'd be like literature, geography, history, grammar, everything. We even had like concerts and all kinds of stuff. And it was just like pretty intensive. Like we'd get homework that is like on par with like first course university stuff. And we'd be going home and like everybody's suffering and the parents are trying to help us and everything. But like once you come out of that, you're just like, a lot more than like anybody who didn't.
Yeah, and I can tell because when you speak to me, you sound very North American. The way you look and move, it's like very like North American, like mentality as well, like sense of humor. But you speak Ukrainian fluently.
Yeah.
It's
I try to.
Yeah, and tell me about your girlfriend. She's Ukrainian.
Fiance.
Fiance. That's right. That's right. But anyways, so tell me about your fiance. She is Ukrainian, but also she lived in Canada, or you met her here?
Met her here.
Okay.
This is a Tinder relationship.
Yeah. Okay.
So we met on Tinder, and I don't know. It's just one of those moments where like, there's actually a funny joke in how we met because when we're like initially talking, she's like, "Where are you from?" And I'm like, "Oh, you'll have to guess." And she's like, "Oh, like I don't know what she guessed. It was like something like Kyiv or something like that." And I was like, a little further west. She was like, "Good evening." I'm like, way more west. And she was just like, "Okay." So it was like one of those funny like pickup lines, I guess.
Ontario Oblast.
Yeah, Ontario Oblast.
Exactly.
But yeah, man. And then she like we had this thing where like she was like not really wanting to speak English, and like I of course was like fine with speaking Ukrainian, but my Ukrainian wasn't like as good as it is now because like we speak like half napiv, which is like half and half to each other. So you'll start a sentence in English and then go into Ukrainian. But the whole thing is that she was like really trying to avoid English. And so she would talk to me in Ukrainian, but like very slowly because at least I could talk Ukrainian. But apparently I was interesting enough. So she kept me around.
Lucky guy.
But yeah, I just like it kept going like that. And here we are 8 years later.
Yeah, she speaks English very well, by the way.
Yeah, that's because I was like, there came a point where We were in a bar, and we were with my one friend who basically only speaks English and French and like a little bit of Russian. This was pre-war.
Yeah, yeah.
And I basically like, gave her a shot of tequila and was like, okay, I'm going to talk to my friends over there. And I just left her with him. And so their only like language that they could really communicate in well was like English.
Okay.
So she was like, all right, this is the moment. Here it goes. And so
it's like the Eminem 8
yeah,
Mile.
a little bit of liquid courage and off you go.
Exactly.
But yeah, after like 8 years, like it's just her English has gotten really good and my Ukrainian has gotten like quite a bit better. So we can talk in whatever language now.
Yeah, I always imagined that you spoke Ukrainian at a high level, but I guess you said you learned a lot over the years. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, nice, man. And so growing up in Canada, and then you came to Ukraine like a lot when you were younger, right?
Yeah. 2006 with my dad and my grandparents. My grandma was like 88 at the time.
You were still a teen, or
I was like
2006?
6. I was 12 years old.
12
I wasn't
years old,
even a
preteen.
teen.
Okay. And yeah, because I was 17 in 2006, but that was gonna be 18. But anyways, so 2006 you came, and what was your first experience like?
Not great. It was like one of those trips where like my dad wanted to reconnect the grandparents with the family because they haven't been back to Ukraine since they left. Like, what, 60 years before that?
Wow.
So like they were like calling them and talking with them and everything, but they haven't like been back to see them. So it was like really important for my dad to sort of link the connection of like, this is your family from Ukraine, and like for my grandparents to be like, look who's still alive kind of situation.
Wow. So where did you visit? Like,
So we went to like from Kyiv, we went to the village, which is like Kyiv, and then Kyiv. These are all like cities in Poltava. I think we went to Sumy, but I'm not 100% sure. I can't remember.
Mhm.
But yeah, it was very much like, all right, like this is interesting and all, but I was in like my 12-year-old World of Warcraft phase. So I was like, where's the computer? Where's the internet? Like, but yeah, sitting and meeting people was, I don't know. I think like if I did that same situation now, it would be totally different because back then it really provided me with a lot of context to understand like who I am as a person. And so it kind of changed everything going down the line. So I'm pretty thankful that we did that trip.
yeah.
But remembering what I felt at the time, I was just like bored.
How did your grandparents feel being back in the country?
Oh, my grandfather thought like the SVU is gonna come and arrest me for being like a deserter or something like that. But like it's like fighting for the Red Army, like, and then like having to like go under occupation with the Germans and everything. It was just like for him it was very intense because like he didn't know what was happening. He didn't know like what the state of the government was, like how everything like that was going. My grandma was just kind of like, whatever, let's go like see the family again.
Yeah. And what was something that he missed the most? And when he came back, he's like, "Oh, I really missed this."
I think it was just like the people probably
Yeah.
more than anything. But aside from that, it was also just like, like touching the ground and being like, black
Yeah.
soil.
It's so delicious.
Yeah.
Nah, joke. But well, no, it's super interesting, man, because he has such an interesting story about leaving in the 40s under
Yeah.
some wild circumstances. Then he came back. Wow.
Yeah.
That's interesting. And then you were in 2006. So
Sorry, grandfather didn't come back in 2006. He came back in 2008 because he was too afraid to come in 2006.
Okay. Yeah, for the record.
Yeah, for
We'll,
the record.
adjust that. Yeah. Okay, but you came back in 2006,
Yeah.
right? Okay. So I've been here since 2015, and Ukraine, Kyiv especially, because I'm more familiar with this city, it has changed a lot over these last almost 10 years. How has Ukraine differed from your first trip in 2006 to now, would you say?
Mono bank.
Let's take it over.
The like just like the whole digitalization. I wasn't expecting back then that like I think expecting is the right word because like like everyone in Ukraine, everyone was obsessed with like Counter-Strike, computers, gaming, all this stuff, but to actually see it translate into like this level of like digitalization on this scale is just so impressive. And it's like, I don't know, I've always been into computers and stuff like that. So for me to see that happen here before it happens like in like Western countries is just mind boggling. But it's also like comes from that idea that, okay, like everything is kind of like, we don't like it. It's a little messed up here and there. So we're going to go into sort of the digital world. And I think that like Ukrainians have really embraced the whole idea of like taking the digital world and making it like what they wanted it to be. And they've really gone nuts with it. And I love it.
Yeah. No, like I was talking to a previous guest, and we were talking about the differences between like Ukrainians, and she's Italian. So Italians, and she was saying, and we agreed, Ukrainians, they're very well educated, they're, focused, they love tech, and they're not scared to start businesses.
Yeah.
Yeah, and after the years, especially since 2015, yeah, Dia and Mono Bank, like these apps, they're amazing. Like whenever I have an issue with my bank back in the US, I have to give them a call. I have to go jump through hoops. Yeah, exactly. I might as well have to go there. Yeah, if I need a new card or get it like virtually like on my Apple Pay, I need the physical card to have it and
like take a photo with it,
yeah,
and then
exactly.
someone has to like check on the other side physically.
Exactly,
like,
have to write
verify.
on like a stone tablet.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just put it on horseback to them. Like
Seriously.
no, it's so crazy. And then like this Dia app. Unfortunately, I can't get the Dia app because yeah. So I need
got
to.
it.
You got it, yeah. So you're a permanent resident, or you have a passport?
Actually, I had it when I was a temporary resident. For whatever reason, I was able to get it on. I think that was because my bank account was like done wrongly, so they were able to like put it on.
Okay.
I don't have that bank anymore. That problem's been solved. But yeah, I had it since then, but now I'm a permanent resident technically. So yeah, I have that. I have them on the bunk. Everything's like super smooth sailing.
Yeah, nice. Yeah, I want to apply for permanent residency soon, but I need like some extra documents. But I heard once you get permanent residency, it's valid for 10 years.
Yep.
And then after 10 years, you don't have to submit documents anymore. You just have to go there, take a photo, sign a paper, and then they send you a new one.
Yep.
Yeah, it's a super simple process. So I'm waiting for that. And after I think like 4 years of that or something, then you can apply for a passport, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Then you can go to the front line.
Yeah. I think I'm more valuable not on the front.
Well, yeah. I mean, you're stimulating the economy, right?
That I am actually, because what happened was I was working. Actually, should we go into that now? We can go into that now, right?
Just whatever. This is about you, man.
So like what happened, like I was working for WWII Ukraine. So it's like a website builder.
Yeah, I actually had an interview with them, and then I didn't pass like the test task. It was actually UX writing.
Ah.
Yeah.
That's
and they were based like in Israel, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
So that's who I was working for before I'm working for the current company. But how that all happened was like I found this other company that like really interested me, and I'm working for them now. They're called Muse, and they do property management systems for hotels. So I'm like the guy who makes sure, like helps like the designers like pick the components, make sure that the flow is logical for people to go from beginning to end, and for like guests to just like check in easily. If they want a bottle of champagne, to order it easily, just to make sure all that stuff happens properly. And they were asking me like, well, how do you want to get paid? Because you're like, I was at the time like, I don't know, we were in Canada because this was like 4 months into the war starting and everything. So there's a lot of uncertainties. And they're asking me like, do you want to be paid like as a Canadian in Canada or on your residency permit in Ukraine? And then if you wanted Ukraine, do you want to be paid full-time or as a FOP? And so I was like sitting there weighing all these options and everything. And I decided to be paid full-time in Ukraine, so 20% tax, because in my mind it was like, yeah, if I do that, then this amount of money goes to the government, and which means this amount goes to the military. So I don't need to worry about donating because as I'm working, I'm already like contributing to hopefully winning the war. So
yeah. But also, yeah, you've been fundraising for many brigades as well, right?
Yeah.
I remember you helped me, and you raised the money quite fast, man.
Yeah, 3 days. I think that was a record.
Exactly. No, that was awesome. Yeah, I'm almost done with closing my my portion. That it's like an ambitious goal. I think it's 140,000.
Yep.
And my half of this, because I have somebody else doing their half, it's about like 80,000.
Yep.
And so this Sunday, I just created the flyer today. I was going to post it on social media, but I want to invite you. If you're going to be in town this Sunday, do you know who Benya is? He is an American musician. He plays like Ukrainian folk music typically.
Okay.
So yeah, him and I were in collaboration for this. It's going to be at, I always say it wrong, Havilovi.
Where?
Havilovi. It's like
Havilovi.
Yeah, I always say it wrong. HVLV.
Yeah.
So it's there in Podil, like
cool.
This Sunday at 7 p.m. So it's like 200 grivnas at the entrance, but it's optional.
Classic.
Yeah, and then we have like an auction, and then Ben's gonna do live music, and then he's gonna have a DJ set afterward.
Yep.
And so yeah, we're gonna have an auction, and then we're gonna have raffle, because I messaged some of these brands that I've been doing stuff with, and they send some items like clothes, like shirts. Also, do you know Urban Art Factory?
No, actually.
Yeah. So it's really cool. They create whenever you enter like a different oblast or city, they have like this concrete sign.
Yeah.
Yeah. So basically, they create like miniature versions
the miniature
of them.
versions. Okay,
yeah. So I have one from Kyiv, And I asked them, I said, hey, I'm having this fundraiser for this unit. Can you donate maybe like one or two? They said, yeah, sure. So they donated two, one from Kyiv and then one from Donetsk.
Oh,
And they
that's
look
sweet.
so cool. Yeah. So yeah, I have that, the shirts, and I have some Olympic athlete people I know, and I asked them if they want to come, and if they come, I'll bring a flag and they can sign it for someone that wins the raffle auction.
That's sweet.
Yeah, so it's like I'm planning to raise 20 or 30K just from that night, hopefully,
Yep.
and then I can kind of close like my portion of this. So it should be like a lot of fun, and it's Sunday, at 7 p.m. Bring Yana.
Yes, we'll do.
Okay, yeah, sweet. So I'll be there. But yeah, so I know that you and
Now
I'll
I
bring
have
you
weekend plans finally.
exactly. And I'll bring you the patch.
Sweet.
Yeah, the typhoon patch. So yeah, tell me about these other I guess brigades that you've fundraised for, because you've done it several times, right?
Yeah, I would go into it, but I honestly I just can't remember them all.
Yeah, because you were saying you were collecting like patches from all of them.
Yeah, I have like I think 6 different patches from 6 different brigades. Someone will probably get angry at me for not remembering, but I don't care. I'm just trying to help everybody here. Yeah, several brigades. Just basically, I have a lot of friends who are working in like the music industry, or I guess like you in media,
Mhm.
and just like all kinds of different spheres. And everybody's always like, "Oh, Mishko, I'm raising money," and I'm just like, "Yeah, put my limit at 10K, let's go." And I'm just like, I don't know. It's kind of part of. It's fun for me, but it's also good because I'm kind of like the person who likes to poke people and just like
Mm.
keep reminding them that like, hey, like I was the person who was poking people to be like, hey, you should come to Ukraine. It's really awesome here, and sort of like, I don't know, just try and bring people together of like minds and share like different experiences wherever they are. So I'm always kind of trying to do that, and I find that fundraising is another good way to like bring people back into like, hey, war's still going on. Remember, by the way, I have this thing.
Yeah.
You should probably throw some money over here.
Yeah, I'm still trying to figure out my specialty when it comes to fundraising money. I feel like one of my specialties is bringing people together.
Yep.
And then yeah, when I had this idea, so I contacted you and several of my other friends, and I said, you know what, I can raise like my part. If you can raise like a little bit, and we can kind of reach the goal together. And then I did that, and I said, you know what, it's cool like asking friends to help donate, but I want to do something more where I can get like a bigger lump sum and everyone has fun instead of asking people to poke their friends for money. So I was like, okay, maybe I can create this event. And this guy Benya, he does these events just every other week. He does a fundraiser for some other organization, and he raises like typically 20K each time he does it. And so I said, okay, maybe we can collaborate. I can bring the people, invite the people, bring the items, and then you can provide the music and the location. And yeah, so it works out, and I'm looking forward to this. But
Yeah,
also
it's
it's like a
great.
little stressful.
Yeah, it's gonna be a little stressful. I find that like I like the idea of events because it also keeps community and culture alive. But there's the other side of it where it's like you notice people are like, just throw 50 hryvnia, and that's really the key thing is when like you're going into like any kind of fundraising. There's so many, and there's just too many. So like if you can just like throw in like minimal amounts in as many places as you can, if everybody did that, we'd have all these fundraisers closed in like seconds, basically.
Exactly.
But that's another thing.
Yeah. So we're at like we're talking about fundraising for brigades, and we're talking about war, but let's rewind a little bit. So you moved, yeah. Yeah. So you moved here in 2017, like officially, right?
Yeah.
Okay. And then you were living here working for IT companies, like
Nope.
Wix,
I moved here. I was here for 3 months. Went back to Canada because my I was here on a visitor permit or whatever, not even a permit, whatever it's called, a visitor's visa, which is like 3
tourist
months.
visa, yeah.
Yeah, tourist visa, that's what it is. I went back to Canada, and it was winter, and it was Canada, and all my friends were like done school, and everybody's like going somewhere, and I'm just kind of sitting there being like, oh, I really remember when it was really fun the past 3 months. Like, I got to go back. I see opportunity there. So I went back, stayed for 9 months on a tourist visa.
It's illegal, right?
It indeed was.
Joking.
And then I left right after I signed my contract to work as a journalist for a agency called UATV.
Wow, I think I've heard of it.
I think so. But yeah, I was at UATV for their English, whatever it's called, English
Broadcast? Like UATV
English
English?
broadcast,
Alright.
whatever. So I was a journalist for them for 1 year. Then I was editor And yeah, that's how that all started basically. But
Yeah.
when I when I left, the guy who was like doing the border checking like the passports and everything, he's like, "Wait a minute, you're a tourist. It's been 9 months. Step aside." So like I step aside and like in the like little room, and he's like talking to me, and he's like, "Oh yeah, so you're just going to get your permit and then come back?" I'm like, "Yep." He's like, "What's your specialty?" I'm like, "Oh, like media, social media management, stuff like that." He's like, "Oh, I'm also into social media management. We should hook up when you get back. All right, cool. By the way, this is your fine, and you put it into the box over here." And I'm like, "I don't have change." And he's like, "That's fine. Do you have a phone number? We'll just top up your phone for when you're back." And I was just like, this country, man.
Yeah. Yeah, but that's cool, man. And yeah, so you did so much, after you got here in 2017, you switched hats a lot, so to speak.
Yep.
And then we'll fast forward a little bit to late February 2022.
Ooh.
Were you in Kyiv, or where were you?
Okay, so what happened was so I was working for Wix at the time, and basically I've been monitoring the situation like 9 months ahead of that, and like all my friends are like journalists, either for local agencies or foreign agencies or whatever, and so everybody's talking about it. Everyone's like, "Oh, there's a buildup at the border. You're watching it happen. You're seeing all these things," and I was like pretty certain it was going to happen. But all the Ukrainians were like, "Why would that happen? Why would Russia attack us?" And I'm just like, dude, every single sign is there. And when they finally decided to put what are they called, blood banks or whatever on the border, I was like, "No, that's invasion 100%. Everyone's like, "I don't know, maybe they're just collecting blood, maybe it's just blood drive." I'm just like, "That's insane." No, like, so I wanted to get, I know like Kyiv's going to be a target. So I was like, "Hey, Yana, we are going to Lviv. And we're going to go there for like a couple weeks, just to monitor the situation, see what happens. And then we'll come back if everything's good." And she was like very upset, because she was like, "It's not going to be a war. No one's going to attack anybody." And she had like business courses too. So she had to like go there and be there physically in Kyiv. And I was like, no, we're going to Lviv. So she was very angry at me to begin with. And she was just like not having it. But we were in Lviv. And we were there for about a week, watching the situation get worse and worse and worse and worse. And then what happened was we were actually partying Saturday in a club in Lviv with a couple of our friends. And my Slack from Wix started going off, and they're like offering people like, "Hey, if everyone's uncomfortable with the situation, we can get you out of here, but you have to be in Kyiv at 6 p.m. tomorrow to get on the plane to go to Turkey."
This was the 20. What day
This was the 14th, roughly.
14th,
14, 15, 16, somewhere around there. Yeah, it was Valentine's Day.
Mhm.
So I was like, "Oh, we got to go." And Yana was just like, "Yeah, well, okay, like free trip to Turkey sounds fine to me." But she was like totally not serious about the whole thing. So
Yeah.
of course she packs like, swimsuits and stuff like that. And I'm just like, all right, how many clothes do I need a week? Like how much, like just
Yeah.
like trying to fit whatever I can in there. And we stayed up all night, packed everything, because we were staying in this apartment, packed everything up, threw it in, got on the train, took the train at 6 a.m. to get to Kyiv so that we could pack up whatever we could in our apartment and then get to the plane on time. Flew out that evening. And then it was just like 2 weeks of sitting in this hotel with like all these Wix employees who were just working. But like you could feel like the air is like thick, and like everything's getting more tense and tense and tense, and everyone's getting worried and like not sure what's going to happen. And then who goes on TV and makes his big speech, and then it starts shortly after that. And so we just like jump into it. Like everybody who was working at Wix started doing something. The company was kind enough to be like, "Oh, you see, you guys are now at war, so take your time, do whatever you need to, and come back as soon as you can." So for like the first 2 weeks, it was nuts. Like people were like helping people evacuate, getting people whatever they needed, supplies, all this stuff. And we basically, Yana and I, through connections, we kind of got looped into like this sort of media, I don't know what it was called. It's called like infosprotiv. So it's like, I don't know, I can't remember what to call it. Like it's the basically dealing with anything media. And the whole reason was that everything was happening super fast in like the first bit, but Western media sources weren't really getting any of this information until like 2-3 days later. So what we had to do was create a chain of getting all the news, basically bundling it together as effectively as possible, and then giving it to them. So like working with like CNN, any of these like Western outlets, just so that they could have the information as soon as it happens, not 2-3 days later, because everything was like, you know,
Yeah.
instant.
So you were in Istanbul when they invaded, right?
Not in Istanbul. We were somewhere, I don't know, near Ankara, like 45 minutes away from. Wait, Ankara? That's not it.
That's the capital. Yeah,
What's the one in
Antalya?
the south?
Antalya?
Yeah, Antalya.
Yeah.
There we go.
Yeah.
So we were somewhere there, just like random hotel somewhere out in the middle of nowhere.
Wow. So yeah, it's so interesting. So I was in Kyiv, and then a week before, I understood that they were probably going to invade. Just like you said, they're bringing blood to the front line.
Yeah.
And then looking back on this, to me, it's like so obvious. They're bringing blood to the front. They're writing V's and Z's on their vehicles and O's.
Yeah.
Like something's going to happen. And at the time, I didn't really think much. But I was with some friends like a week before at my friend's wedding, and that's all everyone could talk about. So, you know, are they going to invade? And towards the end of the night, this one guy was like, you know, I have friends at the embassy. They're going to evacuate the embassy soon because they're going to invade. They said it's like 100%. And I told
U.S. embassy?
yeah, I think it was the U.S. embassy. And I told my ex at the time, I said, you know, let's go to Mukacheva because this is like where she's from, her family is. We went there, and then they invaded. And by the way, I'm so glad I did this. So before they invaded, it was like this week prior.
Yeah.
I knew something might happen. So I was recording like everything. I was recording like the TV while we're watching TV. I was recording that. I was recording like daily life, us walking around Mukacheva. I was recording, you know, the people in the city. I was recording, you know, us like making vareniki one day.
Yeah.
So, and like with the news on the background. And so I have like this kind of, I'm thinking if I have enough footage, maybe I'll put it together as like, you know, the days leading up to the war. And then I have the day and the few days after the war. Like
if you saw the documentary on Stalker 2, like how they developed the game and everything, they actually put all that together. They were filming it, and it's like you kind of get a sense for like how tense and uncertain everything was. And it's like it's a really interesting moment to have frozen in time and look back on, because like you look back at it now and you're just like,
yeah, because I have we were watching Biden's speech like every time he would go on TV.
Yeah,
we were watching him talk, and then we were watching, you know, what Zelensky was saying. And then the TV would be on 24/7, just some like Priami.
Yep.
I guess, yeah. So that would be on because that was their favorite channel. And then after they invaded, there was so like at the grocery stores, there was hardly anything on the shelves. The lines were long. The bankomats ATMs were running out of money.
Yeah.
I don't know. It was so crazy. I was recording all of this. Yeah. So I don't know. I think maybe I'll put it together one day.
I think it's worth putting it together.
Yeah, because it was such an interesting time, you know.
It was like different for me though. We were just like sitting in a hotel, just working, but like, I don't know how to explain it. It was like that like, thick air.
Yeah.
You just feel it.
Yeah, and also, so I was in Mukacheva, and there was no air alarms, and it just felt, there was nothing going on, you know. I knew there was like a war, but it's like all the way over there. I was watching TV all the time, but I'd never heard an air alarm, so I went to Lviv maybe 2 months after being in Mukacheva, so it was like May or late May, and I went to Lviv. And this is the first time I heard an air alarm. I was at Plosha Rinok, and I look at everybody, and everyone's just like kind of casually walking around now. And I'm like, oh my gosh, where's the shelter? Where's the shelter?
Everyone's used to it.
Yeah, exactly.
Like,
I'm like, they're used to it like already. And I'm so scared. It's the first time I heard an air alarm.
Yeah. The one in Lviv is worse.
Yeah.
It's like it's faster, you know.
And they talk too, right?
Yeah, they're like uvaha.
Yeah.
You're just like, oh my god, no.
Get to a shelter. Yeah, but how do you deal with living in Ukraine now? You know, with the constant air alarms. You know, Kyiv's been a really hot spot lately.
Yeah, I think it's fortunately we can leave. So I think it's important to like, you know, be here and also leave when things are getting tense, just to sort of collect yourself. Like we went to, as we call it now, sleep tourism.
Mm-hmm.
We went to Krakow just because it's close for like 5 days, just to sleep.
Yeah.
But then like after you get rested and you come back, you're like, all right, we're good again. Like back to life.
Yeah.
But I could see how people inside the country would benefit from going somewhere that's definitely more out of the way. No air raid sirens, nothing nearby, and just like sleep. I think sleep tourism is super important.
Yeah, that's what Zakarpattia is like. They don't even have curfew over there.
Great.
Yeah, like it's like the only oblast I believe that doesn't have curfew or they didn't enforce it or something,
Yeah.
and places stay open longer. Yeah, but yeah, for the people watching at home, there's curfew throughout all the regions. It varies by time, but in Kyiv it's 11, right?
No, it's 12.
Oh,
Everyone
12.
just
Sorry,
goes
12.
home
12.
at
It was
11 to
11.
be at
12.
home.
Yeah, that's why I'm used to everything closes at 11.
Yeah.
So I'm not no longer out. Yeah, but it's at 12. That's right. Before it was at 11.
Yeah.
Yeah, and a lot of these regions in the east, I heard
I
it's
think
like
it was even at like 10 before, if I'm not wrong.
yeah, but I was like in Mukacheville and it was like at
Yeah,
10
okay.
and strict. And then yeah, I left for a while to like Croatia and Portugal, but I'd come back every few months.
Sleep tourism.
Sleep tourism, exactly, exactly, man. But yeah, were you here recently for this attack near Lukyanovka? It was like a few days ago, like a
Yeah,
week ago.
yeah. I was here.
Yeah, did you hear it?
Okay, like our apartment is in an area where anytime like the air raid siren is like right beside the apartment,
Mhm.
and we also have like very loud noises. So
Mm.
I don't know if I heard it. I think I heard it. I think I woke up from it.
Yeah.
But yeah, I saw the videos afterwards and like it was very bright. Let's put it that way. You know, when you have like the fog in the air and then
Yeah.
you have something will explode and the light that bounces off of it, maybe it was that, but that one looked very big.
Yeah. No, because I'm quite far from Lukyanovka,
Yeah.
but I heard like some explosions like in a distance, but you can hear something going off. And then the next day I went over there just to make like a small video about like the aftermath. I didn't know exactly the direction of the video, whether it was going to be, about the people or about the businesses
Yeah.
or about something. Anyway, so I went there and they've hit that place like a lot. And the McDonald's is like all destroyed now. I'm waiting for like America to get involved. And after seeing the McDonald's like
The
destroyed.
embassy.
Yeah, exactly. The embassy. No, but anyways, yeah. On a serious note, like 4 people lost their life, like
Yeah.
several other people injured. Apartment buildings around that area damaged heavily. Businesses damaged. I saw even this one kiosk that has bread. It was like totally damaged. I don't know. It's very sad, and I don't know. Like, and there was like this one attack maybe about a couple months ago, and it was right there next to Olimpiska, like Palazzo Ukraina. I'm sure you heard this one, right? This one was very loud.
Oh, yeah. You're talking about the one that hit a Toronto Cave Center.
Oh, really? It did.
I think so. It
Yeah.
hit right beside it at least.
Yeah. So it's like it was near Velika Vasilkivska.
Yeah.
Yeah. I guess that was the one then. Yeah, and it damaged like that Gothic.
Gothic Cathedral,
Yeah.
Holiday Inn, all that stuff. Yeah, because we were at a comedy night. I don't know, it was like 2 nights before or something like that. And the comedian who we went to go see from Romania, very funny man, by the way, he was staying at the Holiday Inn. And so like when he left Ukraine, he made a post about it being like, yeah, we were staying at that hotel. And I was just like,
Blah. That's crazy. Like, yeah, I woke up because it was so loud.
yeah,
Yeah, it was very loud. And then because I'm on this apartment building, I'm like on the 16th floor. So, and my window faces like the center, so I can see what's going on over there. I'm kind
Yeah.
of far away, but I could see. Yeah, I saw some of the smoke coming up, and there was like another explosion. Then you could see kind of the flames in the distance.
yeah.
I didn't go there in the morning. Because I was going to do like a video, but I slept in a bit because I was so tired from the previous night and I couldn't get some sleep because of this attack. But yeah, I heard they damaged that area like heavily, and they're saying that it was like an intercepted missile, right? I believe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that one was. I can't remember which one's intercepted and which one's not, but like you can really tell the difference when it's one that's been intercepted and one that hasn't been intercepted.
Yeah. Of course. And talking about like all of these attacks, and these are all as of recent.
Yeah.
You're Canadian by passports.
Yeah.
Your fiance can leave the country easily.
Yeah.
Why do you guys continue to stay in Kyiv
Well, like I
when
said,
you can do sleep tourism but sleep residency?
yeah, it's like it's one of those things like we're in and out pretty often just because it's like it's a long game. So it's important to like stay as, much yourself as possible. So I think it's important for us to go in and out, but why we keep coming back is because it goes back to like my family and everything. Like the Red Army chased my family out back in World War II, and then I came back, and now it feels like they're trying to do that again. So it's like genocide round 2. And this is my way of being like, F off.
Yeah. Wow.
And Yana's in the same situation where she's like, no, this is my home. You guys can.
Yeah. So, but Yana believes that there's something going on now, right?
I'm pretty sure at this point.
Yeah. But no, but yeah, so yeah, I can't imagine myself anywhere else. I was living in Portugal for a bit, but I'd come back every 3 months.
Yeah.
Because I had this deal with my ex, like she would stay 3 months in Portugal and then I'd do Ukraine, then we'd switch. But after a while, I just, moved back because I don't know, I really like it here. I love the people.
There's so much to like here. And
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
if I'm like not even talking about like war and all that other stuff, that's like, there's some things are inconvenient. Some things bother me. Like, I always look at like these staircases that you can go down and like cross streets and come up on the other side. They're great, but I'm just like, guys, like, there's people in wheelchairs, like, just like all these little details.
But they have like that 90-degree ramp on the side.
That's for cribs or whatever they're called, baby carriages.
Yeah.
I thought it was for wheelchairs.
Wheelchair, like, yeah, parkour.
But it's like all these little things, but that's probably just me being like a user experience designer.
Yeah.
Like all these things, I'm thinking always like, okay, who's going to use this? How are they going to use this? And like, it's just those things that bother me. But with like the whole digitalization, everything's getting better. And so it's just like, I see them actively, like I see people here actively trying to change these things, and they are doing a very good job at it. Other countries just don't care.
Yeah.
And it's like, I feel like Ukraine is advancing humanity, not just technologically, but also like with the war, you can see like their true sides come out, and Ukrainians stand by their principles and their fundamentals. And that's something that I value greatly. When you see like other people are just like, whatever, we'll just let someone else deal with it. Like you see the unity in Ukraine, and it's just like, you feel like you're a part of something, and you feel like you can actually, like, what you do matters to a degree.
Yeah. No, I feel more of like a member in this community, even as an outsider, as an American, than I felt like in the US. Because everyone is kind of, I guess, how do you say, like a bit selfish, but they're a bit like individualistic.
Yeah.
So they just care about their self and what they're doing instead of, in Ukraine, they care about the community.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I really like this being a part of the community.
Not communism.
Yeah, exactly. Community, it's different. We don't all share.
Communitism. But yeah, I think that's the thing. It's like the base is, if like you want to go to Ukraine and like live in Ukraine happily, you have to care. And that's just like the base level. Care about your neighbor, care about your building, care about like, not throwing garbage on the side of the road, caring about helping other people. Like if you just care a little bit, then like you'll go far, kid.
Yeah. and the thing is, like, so I used to so whenever I was living in apartments or like houses like in LA, I would hardly know my neighbors, like who they are. I remember before, like these kind of like in the 50s, everyone knew their neighbor. They would hang out, barbecues. I never had that. Everyone just kept to themselves. But here in Ukraine, like whenever I live in apartments, I'd more or less kind of know the people living around me.
You at least wave at them.
Yeah, I wave at them. Like I'd see them going in and out, say hi or something.
Yeah. I still don't talk to them, but
if
I
hang
see
out
them,
with
I'm
them
like,
as well, yeah. But I feel like more part of the community. I'm part of this building. I have concierge. I wave to them all the time. They ask me a couple questions sometimes.
So many things with the concierge in our building, but whatever.
Yeah, sometimes concierge are too nosy though.
Yeah, they help.
Yeah, exactly. They keep the riffraff out.
Yeah, that's the bare minimum.
Yeah, exactly. No, but I really enjoy living here. So I mean, we're running short on time, but I want to ask you, what are your plans for the future? So you're engaged. You're probably gonna have a wedding here in Ukraine.
Yep.
And then you just plan to settle here, start a family, maybe.
I mean, like I said, we're always like in and out, but it's very much like I have family. Like my parents still live in Canada, so we're still between Canada and Ukraine. And yeah, I think that's just like important for me to have sort of a foot in the door here. So like I do have an apartment here, and we live in our apartment here. So like also Yana's family's here, so like it's important to also stay in touch and everything. But just when the war is over, ideally we'd have like this be our home base, and then go visit more frequently back to Canada.
Yeah. And do you think realistically like the war will end anytime soon?
I'm optimistic. How it's going to end, I'm skeptical about, but I'm optimistic that it will end sooner rather than later. Personally, I don't think it's going to drag on for another 2 years. This year, hopefully, but I don't know. I read a lot of news. I read a lot of opinions. I try to get it from like both sides, not both sides, but you know what I mean. Like
Yeah, I watch
people
RT.
who are more yeah, I'm not watching RT, but people who are more like liberal leaning versus people who are more conservative leaning, and like
Yeah.
it all seems to be like the only person who doesn't want it to end is Voldemort over there.
Yeah.
But starting lately more than ever, that even his people are starting to get a little cheesed off. So let's hope they get really cheesed off.
Yeah, and then with this new the new president in the U.S., he's like a wild card.
He's a firecracker.
Yeah, he's a firecracker. I have no idea. Like, I know that he's going to screw over the U.S., but I still don't know where he stands with kind of Ukraine, Russia. I know JD Vance, he doesn't really care what's going on,
Yeah.
with other countries besides the U.S. Even said he doesn't really care about Ukraine.
Yeah.
And there's other people like in his cabinet that don't really care. They're more isolationist. But Trump, like, there was an article that came out recently. I don't know how true it is, but he was telling Putin like he needs to negotiate, or there's going to be more sanctions for him or something. So I thought he would collapse to Putin, but it seems like he's actually standing up a bit.
I think, like, I've been talking with a lot of other friends who are Ukrainian Americans, and they've been telling me that Trump wants to be the hero. Like,
He wants to be what?
he wants to be the hero.
Yeah, okay.
He's like, he has that big picture of him when he got almost shot or whatever.
Yeah.
He wants to be the big American hero. I think like the best way for him to be the big American hero is to just do whatever you can to not end, but like put Ukraine in the position of strength so that Ukraine can stand up and say no more. Because like we already know appeasement's not going to work.
Mhm.
And the best route to take is literally just go do what Zelensky says at this point, man. Like,
Yeah.
and be done with it. Then you'll be the hero. Ukraine will be in a position of strength, and we'll all go on our happy ways.
Yeah, but the thing is,
Except for
also
Russia.
Trump, maybe he wants to be the hero because he's narcissistic, and so they have like this kind of better than thou.
Use it against them, like whatever.
Yeah.
It's narcissistic.
But he also loves money,
Yeah.
as you can tell by the people that were standing behind him during his inauguration. And Putin, people say that he's probably the richest person on the planet. It's just unofficial wealth, and he has a lot of money to sway Trump's opinion. And plus, Trump has like these cryptocurrencies now where he can receive money from any source anonymously,
Sure.
more or less. So who's to say, Putin slips him a few $1 billion and he makes Ukraine negotiate?
I think it's like the same thing as like the beginning of the war. I was in an interview with whatever Canada's version of CNN. I can't remember. Canada NN.
Canada and
They were basically asking me like, so like, I can't remember who the host was at the time, but he was like asking me like, what should NATO do? And I was like, dude, I don't know.
because they'll do it.
Yeah.
I'm on the phone with them
I
right now.
wish. But he was really pushing me and asking me like, do you think the war is going to start? And like, my answer was, with Russia, you never really know until they do something. And I think that's just the same thing with Trump today is like, we're just not going to know until he does something.
Yeah.
And whatever he does, we're just going to have to deal with it.
Yeah, and I don't know, like I don't really like his politics at all. I'm not a Trump supporter. But if he somehow surprises me with, stepping up to Putin and supporting Ukraine,
Yeah.
I think I will change a bit of my opinion on him. I know he's not doing a lot of good for my country right now, but if he also does some good for Ukraine, then my opinion will change a bit. And
I'll like him a little more.
yeah, I will appreciate his foreign policy than his domestic at that point.
Yeah.
But I don't appreciate either at this point.
Yep.
Yeah.
I think that's probably the best way to phrase it.
Yeah.
I still
But-
don't like him as a person. I just hate people like that, loud and rowdy and
So
boisterous.
you wouldn't
Just
hang out with him, have a beer.
No, I would not.
I don't think he drinks, anyways.
I saw something about that. I thought that was interesting.
Yeah.
Seems like someone who would be like a raging alcoholic.
Yeah, he seems like it, but not. He can't like lift the the beers. Okay, I'm joking. Okay, but anyways, it's like this two hands. Okay, it's jokes, guys. But anyways, yeah, we reached our time. Is there anything that we didn't discuss that you want to discuss, Mishko?
I don't think there's anything in particular. No.
No,
You're
I really
good.
like chatting with you. I feel like we had a good time here.
Yeah, it was good.
Yeah. I know you're freezing, right?
Dude, I'm so cold in this room. It's
Yeah, I know. I
ridiculous.
see him. You're like shaking. Yeah, I know he's not nervous, guys. It's just really cold in
I
here.
am freezing right now.
Okay, well, I'll sign off right now. So thanks again for watching this episode of Expats in Ukraine with your host, me, Corey. If you like this episode, give it a thumbs up. If you want to see more episodes just like this, subscribe to the channel. And if you want to tell Mishko next time you should bring a jacket, you can comment down below, and I'm sure he'll read these.
Bring a blanket.
Yeah, bring a blanket next time. But anyways, Mishko, thank you so much for joining us. I'd like to shake the hand of the guest over here. So
Sweet.
yeah.
Oh.
Thanks for coming out, man, and we'll get you in that warm room after.